For those of you who've made it to this video, thank you for stopping by. I don't know how you found it, but it's all good. We're about to make some caramel corn, so let's get it. Man, I love caramel corn. I love me some caramel corn. My first experience with it, making it on my own, was those old Orville Redenbacher microwavable bags back in the day, where they would come, you'd pop the corn, and then it came with a block of the caramel that you would melt in there and mix it in. As a kid, I always messed it up. So I've always wanted this recipe. Now, I'm not gonna lie, making caramel corn is not hard, but it's not easy. It takes a little bit of patience. For me, the making of the caramel is the fun part, but then the part where you have to actually mix it in and put it in the oven, yeah, you didn't know it. You gotta put it in the oven in this recipe, but it comes out so fire that it's worth it. Let's get it. Okay, so I'm following the all recipes guide, but I make a little deviation. It's not a big one, but if you want to follow the one on the website all recipes to a T, that's cool. But over time, I found a little bit of a hack. Okay, so the pure cooking spray, the Mazola pure cooking spray, I don't do that, but I'll tell you why and how I substitute that. Now, obviously, the 4 quarts of popcorn, I don't know what 4 quarts is. I don't know how you measure 4 quarts of popcorn. If someone knows how to measure a quart of popcorn, please get in the comment section. I don't know what that is, but I generally do like 2 Pyrex trays worth of popcorn. That's how I count that. Now, I've tried it a few ways, but this is the part where I deviate from the cooking oil. I used to use tin foil to line the pans. I've lined the pans without anything, just doing it straight to the pan. But the thing that I found works the best is parchment paper. The parchment paper, just for some reason, it's hard to like mold to the pan, but once you get it in there, everything just glides and slips off it very nicely. It makes it easy to turn off the parchment. So I always like using that line down there. It's just the best underlining. So you don't need to use oil because the parchment paper just kind of is naturally slick. So you don't need to do that. Brown sugar, half a cup of corn syrup, half a cup of butter or margarine, half a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of the vanilla extract. You can use imitation vanilla because today I didn't have the pure vanilla extract, so I've used imitation. It works too. And then a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Now, very important, with the baking soda and the vanilla extract, those are reactive ingredients, so you kind of save those to the end. So kind of just think of those 2 ingredients as something you just set aside for a special time. For the rest of the ingredients, obviously you're gonna pop up the popcorn. That's cool. Tray it out. Now this is the part I like. This is fun, especially if you're working with kids and they get to see it. As long as you stay safe, because this is you're gonna be using a stove to boil the sugar with the butter and the corn syrup together. You're gonna go ahead and let it boil with the salt, put that little bit of salt in there. You let that bubble, you let that boil up. So that's kind of the cool part. It's just all bubbling. And then you're supposed to let it boil for 5 minutes like that. You can stir it at the beginning. Some recipes say don't stir, you don't even really need to stir, but you can stir at the beginning, but once it starts to boil, I would just let it, don't stir it, let it do its thing. And then after that 5 minutes, you take it off the fire, you take it off the heat, and then bam, you have to get that vanilla and the baking soda ready. I separate this to have the 2 spoons ready. Boom, just dump them in the same time, and it has this really cool frothy, becomes more opaque and frothy and fluffy. And so that's just a fun process to watch. So that's cool. And then once you get that, you're gonna go ahead and pour that over the trays. Now you kind of have to be relatively fast with this because the caramel will harden and it'll get harder to work with as the more that it cools down. But it's not the end of the world if every single kernel isn't covered in caramel, because you're gonna have to put it in the oven anyway. So let's get to the next part. So once you put it in the oven, so this is the part that takes patience, and you gotta kind of you can't just set it and forget it. You have to kind of constantly be with it, and it's gonna take an hour. So you set 15-minute timers, all right? And so every 15 minutes, you're going in there and re-stirring and returning the popcorn just to make sure you get the most even coat. And over time, see what happens with the popcorn once you begin it, because when I first made this recipe, I was like, why don't we just eat it now? Well, what'll happen is, first of all the corn won't be coated as well. And then number two, over the hour, it hardens, so the popcorn isn't soggy. So like if you eat it right away, the popcorn's kind of soggy, but it kind of gets re-hardened in the oven at 250. So you want to preheat that oven to 250 degrees. I should have said that, but and so every 15 minutes you're taking out, you set 4 15-minute timers, and you take it out and you just toss that those popcorns just to make sure you try to get even more each time, even coat. And sometimes I'll just pull the tray out and do it in the oven, so that the heat from the oven still keeps it. But sometimes that's difficult to get your hand around it when it's still in the oven. So I might even just pull it out. And because the top of the oven retains some heat, it'll still be a little malleable, and you can just go ahead and toss it on the top of the oven if you want, like on the stove top, and then put it back. And so each time you're kind of getting more and more of the coat, and you're just making sure that it doesn't burn, because some of it'll accumulate on the bottom, and you want to just make sure that any of the stuff that's got onto the bottom, it'll always sink to the bottom eventually, but that's why you're tossing it, just so that stuff can have that time to like re-penetrate all of the popcorn. Whoop. If you can have the patience to do that for an hour. And with the tossing, go slow, my brothers and sisters. Go slow, my nieces and nephews, because tossing that popcorn, if you're not patient and steady, you'll just spill that all over the place. And I've done it, because so this is kind of a recipe you really want to be patient, have some patience when you're making this, because going in the oven for 15 minutes, 4 times an hour, it's not cool. Like, it isn't that cool, but if it's a special occasion and you're really messing with this treat, it's so delicious that it's worth it. So thank you for watching this video. And if you're able to make this work for you, please get in the comment section. Tell me how you did. Let's get it.